we will go ahead and begin our second session this morning in our Elevate Success program. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Kim Widner as she talks about business budgeting this morning, a very important aspect of everyone's business, right? Kim Widner earned her accounting degree from Michigan State University and obtained CPA certification in Michigan. She worked in the corporate world for many years before starting her own accounting and tax practice almost 28 years ago. In 2014, she became an enrolled agent, a credential that carries the privilege of representing taxpayers before the Internal Revenue Service in federal tax court. Kim provided full-service accounting and tax preparation for individuals and businesses across all industries. Kim specialized in small business and startups and cleaning up accounting messes. Semi-retired now, Kim and her husband enjoy traveling and spending time with their 3 sons. When not working, Kim enjoys Pilates, pickleball, piano, and rooting for the Detroit Lions. Help me welcome Kim Widner as she shares her expertise on business budgeting.
First of all, I'm getting over that yuck that a lot of people had before Christmas, so I apologize. My cough is distracting. I have cough drops and water, but I apologize. This is a great follow-up to Art's presentation on goals, because budgeting will help you achieve those goals. Just want to get some feedback from you guys. What do you think of when you hear the word budget? I'm going to write down some of this. Anybody, throw out. What comes to mind when you hear
suggestion?
Suggestion?
You?
That's a good one. Ew. Spell that. Ew. That's a good one.
Don't overspend.
Mm-hmm.
Limitations.
Uh-huh.
Priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline.
Good.
Reminder.
Reminder. Good one. All very good. A lot of positive ones, because usually when I do this presentation, in addition to ew, I hear restrictions, limitations, self-deprivation, and no fun. But hopefully I can change your mindset today, because used properly, budgets can be quite freeing, giving you control over your finances, help you be intentional on how you spend and save. Like a proper diet or a beauty regimen, budgeting is a healthy life habit. So I just want to go over a couple things before we dive into the meat. A budget is really just a written plan. It can't just be in your head. It's a very thought out written plan for how you will spend your money. It allocates income to expenses, debt repayment, and savings. It's effective both in your personal life and your business, and it's through all stages, through your startup, growth periods, and being an established business. The benefits of budgeting. First of all, it gives you a true picture of your cash flow. A lot of people run businesses, some of them, may not even do true accounting, and I'm not saying anything about that, but you don't really know what you're doing, where your money comes from, how you're spending it. Budgeting allows you to make better and more informed financial decisions, again, for both your personal and your business life. Budgeting actually builds wealth. It keeps you focused on your objectives, monitors your progress on attaining your financial goals. It keeps you out of debt or helps you work your way out of debt. It relieves the burden of living paycheck to paycheck, and it realigns your spending to your priorities. I'll just give you a couple examples. I keep a personal budget for our family every year. I set it at the beginning of the year. I keep track of income and expenses, and we review it every quarter and see where we need to make adjustments, so that we can stay on track for things we want to do, like vacations and home improvements and things like that. As my kids were growing up and starting to get out of the house, I helped them with their budgets. They want to know, how much can I spend in an apartment? So we sat down and said, okay, what's your net paycheck? What expenses do you have right now? And we were able to, see what they can search for in an apartment cost or buying a new car. How much can I afford? What can my car payment be? So it helps you attain those goals without just going in blindly and then being surprised later. As far as businesses go, I've had several examples where clients have wanted to do something big or different, and had some anxiety about getting there, but we simply sat down and went over. One of them was starting a brand new product line, cosmetics, and how to get there, and buying the product and advertising, and just how to shift or work with the business she already had and be able to put money toward developing that. Another one wanted a big piece of equipment to supplement her business. Just that one was a little different. Not only did we change revenue asset, but finance the equipment, but then thought of ways to quickly pay off the debt in order to utilize that effectively, but still have that as an ongoing asset. How to budget. First of all, make the decision to start. Stop incurring additional debt immediately. So again, one of the goals of budgeting is to either stop debt or get out of it. That's a really good goal of budgeting. You start with what is your monthly net income or take-home pay, or if you're a business, what am I bringing in monthly? Then track your spending by category. Use your last 3 to 6 months of your checkbook and credit card statement. Just go from reality first. Don't try to say, oh, I'll fix this. Right now you're going from reality. What am I bringing in and what am I spending on? List those expenses in order of importance. The necessities first. If it's personal, it's going to be things like your house payment, utilities, groceries, etc. If it's business, it's going to be things, again, like rent, your product, anything that you need to keep your business doors open. So necessities first, luxury items toward the bottom. And again, start with a reality check. Then, if your bottom line is positive, you're in a positive cash flow, you can add categories such as savings, debt repayment, a vacation fund. You have surplus that you can start putting into things that you want or enjoy that you may not have been able to do in the past. If your bottom line in your reality check is negative, you need to cut back on the non-essentials or find ways to increase your top line, your revenues. There are a lot of budgeting software and apps out there that of course make budgeting less tedious and challenging. I know a lot of businesses use QuickBooks, and QuickBooks has an excellent budgeting tool, at least on their desktop version. It's very easy to use and allows you to do comparative reporting of budget to actual and see where you're out of whack and need to modify. The online version only has that capability on certain levels. There are a lot of free Excel templates that will help you budget. I've created one. I'm happy to share that if you guys, give me your card or whatever. I can just email it to you and you can use it. There's also another one that's really cool that has pages. It has you list your different revenue sources, your different expenses, and your savings desires. And then it has a top sheet that brings all that detail together and summarizes for you. So that's something free you can do. Most apps will sync with your bank account and credit card, so you can simply download and categorize it. It's not as time-consuming or tedious as you may think. A lot of these apps, these online subscriptions, run about $40 to $100 a year, which is a small investment to make to help you get where you want to go. There are a lot of free apps out there, but if you use that, you're going to have to deal with a lot of ads and a lot of restricted uses. So I did look into some. For my personal, I just use Quicken. That's where I put my family finances and my budget in. A lot of businesses, I use QuickBooks or the Excel. Your personal bank may have a budget application that you can download and use. And then there's a lot of them out there. YNAB, You Need a Budget. There's one called Every Dollar, Good Budget, and Pocket Guard. You just got to look at the methodologies behind these. Some of them start with like a revenue where you plan every dollar you earn, and then others have like envelope mentality where you take your money and you put it into different spending categories. I know I want to spend this much in each category. So you just kind of have to look at the cost of those things and how you want to use them. But these are the do's and don'ts. When you're creating a budget, keep it simple. Keep with the very lowest amount of categories you can that account for everything crucial to you. If you need to start adding little teeny tiny categories, try to lump that into something bigger. You know, that's the same way I teach people in accounting. You don't want your P&L or your budget to be several pages long. You want it to be very simple so that it is easy to review and track and modify. Make it a team effort. So whether it's with your spouse or your family or your partner or your employees, get buy-in from everyone and suggestions and hold one another accountable. Avoid the blame and finger pointing for not achieving your budgets. Budgets are a guide. They're not something that is set in stone. They constantly have to be monitored and changed and adjusted for things that are going on. Or sometimes you change them for new goals that you have. Don't be too rigid for decision making. Again, modify your budget for reality. Some things happen unexpectedly. Your rent goes up, or your product cost goes up, or you need to hire another employee. Things like that. So you're going to have to modify your budget. Again, you don't just set it at the beginning of the year and try to keep it all year. You constantly monitor. I suggest at least quarterly. Use cash only for problem categories. Meaning, if something surprising comes up that's little, that's outside your budget, try to use a savings resource if it's a one-off thing that you don't have to put in your budget. Look for ways to save. Grocery apps, get on an electric plan, shop for new insurance quotes every year, and then set up automatic transfers for savings and investments. If you get in that habit of just once a month at the top of the month sending stuff to your 401k or your savings account or brokerage account, and you'll miss that less and less. You won't even notice, and then by the time you want to use it. I've told my kids, I just want to tell you young kids, when you start working, day one, maximize what your employer allows for 401k, because before you even take your first paycheck home, they're taking that money out and they're putting it for your future savings. You won't miss it. My kids, after a year or two, they go, oh my gosh, look how much I have in my 401k. So that's just that's free. So to set your budget, number one, set your goals, such as Art talked about. Set those goals. What do you want to do with your personal finances? What are some things that you've been wanting to do that couldn't? What are things that you want new that you're trying to save for? Or if it's business, are you going to be growing? Do you need to hire an employee? Do you want new equipment? Are your costs going up, etc.? So set your goals. Number two, make a plan. That's what your budget is. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You have to have a plan in place. It's like if you're driving to a trip and you don't have GPS, how are you going to get there? You have to have a plan in place. You have to have the numbers before you so that you know you can reach that. How long is it going to take? What do I need to do to reach that goal? And then lastly, adjust your habits. Things are going to change. Your goals may change. Life may change. Business may change. So don't be afraid of those. The budget will help you realign certain categories faster than if you were just thrown that change and you don't know what bucket you can modify. So I know this was short and sweet, but I'm going to answer any questions you may have. I'm passionate about budgeting. It works, I'm telling you.
Any suggestions for making a plan?
For making a plan.
You're saying make a plan. So are you talking like it's January 2024? Are you talking making a plan for the next
year?
For the whole 12 months? Just look forward and say, what do you want to accomplish this year business-wise? And then...
Yes, I think a year is the best time period to start with. And again, look back on like your last 3 to 6 months. I think that will give you enough habit history to establish that reality check first before you do your budget. So set your annual amounts, and then you can parse it out into quarterly. Like some expenses, parse it out into monthly. Some expenses are the same every month, like your rent. Some happen once or twice a year, like your insurance. So if you take your annual budget and you parse it out by month, you'll know whether any unusual things are occurring that month or if it's just a standard month, but definitely a year. And then reevaluate every quarter and change it going forward if you need to. Just always keep that. You could do a rolling year, or you could just do a 12-month year and just keep evaluating it.
So two things. One, I know you've budgeted your entire life. I know a little bit more about you than some others in the room. You're 35 years old and you're retiring. So you've done something well.
I have.
But you and your husband are retired
Yes.
at a relatively early age.
I'm not 35.
But you're young for retirement.
I am retiring young, yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Budgeting apparently works,
It does,
specifically for you.
for sure.
And I have a question.
Yes.
As I look around the room, I see small business people who have income on a monthly basis, but the income varies dramatically because of the nature of their business.
Yes.
We don't know how many lipsticks we're going to sell this month, so we don't know what our income is going to be. We don't know how many more people are going to join the gym, so we don't know what our income is this month compared to last month. How do you budget when you don't know what that number is?
Very good question. So two things. Even if you have cyclical revenues, you can still plot that out by month and you know your grand total. But yes, definitely, that's why I think a monthly supplemental budget supports the annual. And so you go back to your reality check. You put in what have I done over the last year, including my ups and downs. Cycles matter. And then you say, okay, what kind of growth have I experienced in the last several years, and am I going to continue that growth? Is something new happening? Am I putting out a new product? You start with reality, but then you also got to use that goal. Say, I want to grow my revenues by 10%. Start out with something that is challenging yet attainable. So let's say I want to increase my client base by 10%. Maybe you want to add on a certain number of clients this year. You say, okay, I'm going to do that, and you have plans to do that, and you incorporate that in your budget. A budget starts with your revenue, and that revenue has to be realistic yet challenging, because you're going to have to challenge yourself a little to add things that you want and haven't been able to have. But start with a reality number, and then go from there on what you think you can do to make that number grow, based upon what you know is going to happen in your business or something new that you're going to do. Does that help?
It does. My income flows very different from month to month, and some of it is just the way people cycle their trips. So it is a little more challenging, and I look around the room and I think that's similar for other people as well. They don't know when the next light system is going to be sold. They don't know when they're going to get the next marketing project.
So there's a cash flow method where you start with what is my cash available right now, and you have your month budget, my income, my expenses for that month, and here's my cash at the beginning, at the end of that month, and that rolls up into the next. So it kind of takes a snapshot of your bucket, your usable resources, and so you're constantly watching that, and sometimes it's going to be growing to be used for future month, and sometimes you might have to dig into it a bit. But by looking at it month to month, it's going to help you track that bottom line cash bucket. Right? So it's a great question, because I forgot about this. It's not just looking at, a monthly thing by itself. You're looking at a pattern of how are my resources growing or depleting at any point in time, and am I able to stay within a good limit? Yeah, so track that at the end of the month. What are your leftover resources? Go ahead.
How would you recommend making a budget? Because you did recommend, you said to make it simple.
Yes.
But how would you recommend categorizing stuff in your budget?
Okay, so then you go back to what have you been spending. So you start with my income, my net paycheck, or whatever I'm going to do. And you look at where do you spend your money? Eating out, entertainment, rent, whatever you may have. And again, categorize them for things that you can't do without, that are just mandatory. And then you put some toward the bottom that perhaps you can adjust or minimize a little bit. So the answer to that is look back at what you have been spending it on. And then secondly, add things that you wish you could spend it on, but you haven't been able to.
All right.
Kim, is there a recommended amount to save if you can?
That varies so much, because it just depends what you're saving for and what you're able to save.
What about like an emergency fund?
Definitely need an emergency. My emergency fund is like a trip away, but just kidding. An emergency fund is anything that you put aside to save for a rainy day. It's again difficult for me to monetize that because everyone here is in a different situation and what that emergency could be. So
From an independent versus a business standpoint, from like a business standpoint?
business standpoint, I would say you should probably have 3 to 6 months of critical expenses on hand.
Yeah.
Unless you're investing in something big, you know, sometimes you have to take that down a bit if you're buying something one-off that you're trying something new.
Okay.
Anything else?
You've worked a lot with businesses. Is there a standard, like, percentage a business should spend on, say, marketing, advertising, all that stuff? Is there like a...
I don't know that there's a standard. And there are, and Deb can probably be best to answer that because she works in that particular area across many industries. Again, it varies by industry. It would be greater if you're selling maybe a product or a service than if you're, so it just depends what kind of, there are things out there, you can look at trends, you can look at financial, especially it's a government site, I don't remember it offhand right now, that sometimes you might get questionnaires as a business, and that's what they use that information for. They drop it into this database where you can look up trends and what businesses in a certain industry are spending by category. So I can't answer that.
So here's another question. So for my business, I use QuickBooks and I'm an accountant and I'm just super on top of it. At home, it's a free-for-all. And that's our goal this year is to get in front of home expenses and what are we doing and just, so I know we can do this ourselves. But are there, because you're retiring, so is there anyone that you would, like, is there a service, like, I would love to bring you in and say.
I'll still help. I am retiring, but I still have a passion for this and
Like, so are you, like, a little side gig, like we could hire you and come in?
absolutely, because I love doing this, and that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to sell myself, but question back on the QuickBooks, you're using it for accounting, are you using it for budgeting as well? Not yet,
No,
but now you will.
I don't even really know. Like I do, like I'll do my end of the month books and then send it to my accountant. She pays my sales tax and she does, like I'm so not involved with it. I should be. It doesn't really excite me, that stuff. So that's the problem.
What you said is very relevant. You need to have both, really. A business budget, of course, because that's going to tell you what you're able to do. But then on a side note, your personal budget just comes off of that, really.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
If you get your business budget in place, then you know what goes into your personal life.
I have to say too, Kim, if you don't mind, you give it a testimonial because you do my accounting. And when she says she cleans up messes or she likes cleaning up messes,
Oh, boy.
she does. She's really good at it.
It's like a forensic accountant.
It really is, and she's so creative with now and supportive. Like you can do this. This is what you need to do, and this, and I've untangled it all for you, and this is what it looks like. So she's awesome.
I appreciate that. I'd be happy to help with your budget.
I was gonna say, so you are able to help or you're not?
You're able to help.
Okay. That's why I do love these meetings. They are so, like, whoever, we have trust, you're intelligent, and then you go from there.
And that's where the networking part comes into. You just never know where it's gonna come from. but-
Yeah.
And then part of this class today too that Kim asked me to share was budget capital for your business. And I wanted to share with you that I am meeting with a new banker for capital for businesses specifically that are smaller businesses. And I met up with them 2 months ago or so, but the informational meeting that I needed for today is scheduled for the 27th of January, I think, or late January. So I will follow up with you if it's anything that's pertinent to follow up, to share that resource for you. I do also have probably a 15-page document of grant opportunities that I will share with all of you. Just know that I don't know if you've ever worked with grants, but you have to really weed through. Some are only for women-owned businesses, some are only for minority-owned businesses, some are for LGBTQ-owned businesses. They're very specific. A lot of them are for certain areas to which Fountain Hills and our area does not apply. So you really have to dive in, and it takes a little bit of legwork, and you'll want to put aside a good hour or so if you want to dive into that grant world. But I already have those resources that I've put together for you that I will email out to you as a thank you for attending today. So I'll make sure to take another picture, because I'm assuming you all registered, but sometimes that's not a good assumption. So I'll take a picture and I'll make sure that I'll email it to everyone that is here.
Do you have anyone that has utilized that information and actually gotten a grant for the businesses?
So I've only shared what I compiled to Good Living Greens, and she was so overwhelmed and so thankful, but I don't know if she's pursued it yet or not. So when businesses have shared with me that they need capital, now I have a resource to share back. So it's rather new. Cool. Yeah, so I'll send them out to everyone. And I can't guarantee anything for anyone who's ever written a grant. They're few and far between. People talk about there being thousands of grants, and there are, but your likelihood of getting them is not.
Wasn't there someone with the chamber that specialized in
We
writing
do have a
grants?
grant writer. That's who we as a chamber use. Her name is Erin Stratton Lovell. Yeah, and she is a grant writing company. Yes, and she has successfully helped us get some grants here at the chamber.
Awesome.
Yes, she's great.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Now go home and budget.
Are you familiar with Profit First?
That up into your app.
It's a book, and it's a little bit of a way of shifting the accounting model that's been really helpful for me as a small business, as a way to kind of helps you budget. But what it talks about is allocating different percentages, basically, for different, not necessarily the different categories, because you could combine all your categories, like for operating expenses, or the biggest concept of it is profit first, is that the first money that any revenue comes in goes to pay yourself, basically, like the richest man.
A lot of people forget to do that, yep.
Yeah, and so I started using that model 5-6 years ago, and it's been, like you with your, the 5 o'clock club, like life-changing for me, in that any money that comes in, I don't look at it as in dollars, I look at it in percentages. So I send this percentage off to profit, I send this percentage off to taxes, and this percentage to operating expenses. But then also with your operating expenses, it has the benefit of like Parkinson's law, where things expand to fit the space or whatever. Your expenses can naturally whittle themselves down because you're only allowing so much to it.
Right.
So it kind of also helps you to keep the expenses under control. Profit first. It's written by an entrepreneur. He wrote The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur or something. But it was a really good, a very simple method for me to kind of budget. And so like my business pays for my taxes. I always have my savings account, my fund account. So that was a good resource for me.
That's a good thing you brought up though. A lot of us as small business owners operate our business, but yeah, we don't pay ourselves. Put yourself as a line item on your budget, for sure. You're not in this for, I mean, we all love what we do, but
Right, but why are we doing it?
why are we doing it? Right.
Okay.
So that's a line item on your business budget. Pay yourself. Your worth.
Yeah.
Pay yourself your worth.
I love that. I'm looking at my daughter like, pay yourself, pay
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, yes.
She refuses to pay.
I know you're on the board of the Chamber Foundation,
Yeah.
and obviously most of all of us are chamber members. Can you give us a reminder kind of about the foundation and what, if any, what are the tax advantages of making donations to something like that?
Can I? Did you?
Sure.
Can we have the
Did you
chamber
say
plug?
those things?
Thank you, Joanne. We didn't even like ask you to do that.
Betsy can help, but the Chamber Foundation is a nonprofit helping to raise money for the Chamber of Commerce itself. It allows us to use other revenue sources that the Chamber didn't have access to, specifically a lot of grants and public donations. So we have an annual fundraising event also, and this fall it is prom night. Prom night at the foundation. Last year it was a speakeasy thing. But anyway, to answer your question, it's a tool that allows us to raise money to support what the chamber wants to do, different programs, etc., like the Young Entrepreneur Program. That's where most of the funds went this year, helping that.
Now, is that one of those, I know there's the list in Arizona, which is still kind of a new concept to me, the whole notion of dollar for dollar credit
It is
versus...
not. Those credits are very specific. They have to help like kids in need or families. It doesn't qualify for the Arizona tax credit, but it does allow you to get a deduction for a charitable donation. Yes. I like that one.
And the prom night does have an ad in the resource guide you got at the breakfast this morning.
I
so
saw
hope
that.
it's-
Any era.
I love
Any era of prom.
Any
Yes.
era.
Goodness gracious.
And you get the same dress too, just the chamber 50th.
Thank you.
Thanks, thank you very much. One group photo, everybody. PJ and Joanne, squeeze in there pretty please. Christian, get in there. 3, 2, 1. Cheese. Awesome, thank you. Sorry, the camera went out.
Yeah, I thought you were taking pictures.
Oh, okay. I messed it up, I didn't do it right. I think it's because it's been out for oh my God. 3.5 hours. On this morning.
Those I've never seen.